So that's, here in the lights, it's everywhere, your clock radio at home, there's magnetic fields. Through a tremendous amount of money and a lot of study, and the research is out there, the government went through a very intensive multi-million-dollar research to combine all the different analysis that went on with magnetic fields. And at the end of the day, the correlation between increased magnetic fields and certain types of cancer really ended up becoming statistically a very weak and non-significant issue. Now again, everyone's welcome to do their own research. But when we as a company sponsor magnetic field measurements for private homes and any one of our customers that wants a magnetic field survey, we do that. And what ends up happening is that there is an existing transmission facility here that has current running through it. And current, if you think of as water in a pipe flowing, from Sugarloaf up to Middletown, sometimes the opposite way. And that has a localized magnetic field associated with it. The fields in this area that we've modeled and measured are really relatively low. Typical values in a home it can be in the vicinity of anywhere from 0 to 10 in a house. The measurements or I should say the modeling that we've done to show what's existing and what is proposed, again, are very low numbers that are in the single-digit categories, and everything that's involved with a substation, and this is also part of the EMF Rapid report, substations are generally not big EMF producers. And again, it's science. You can look it up and you can measure, but a substation has fields associated with the equipment, but when you get to the fence line, the magnetic fields are at an ambient level. So as far as, is there magnetic fields associated with lines that run outside your homes, associated with the service in your home, associated with transmission lines? We're surrounded by magnetic fields. But when you look at increased exposures, the substation itself, the magnetic fields that may be at elevated levels inside the fence are not elevated outside the fence. Do we have some localized fields with the distribution that runs along the street today? Yes. Will we have magnetic fields associated with the circuits that would be proposed? Yes, but that's what we have every single day. So as far as the station itself, the magnetic fields that are local to the station are local to the station. They do not spread out. We model it. That report is available to be reviewed as well. But as far as there are fields associated with the line, by the time you get to the edge of the right-of-way, they're at background level. Same thing with the entrance into the station and the station itself. The magnetic fields are really localized to the facilities. Are there magnetic fields associated with our lines on the street? Yes, but they're 20 feet in the air, and if we were walking around with a meter, it would be very minimalized. If I took that same meter and put it on the service to your house, would it go up? Yes, to higher than typical numbers, but as you get a few inches away, it would go lower. So the main point of the story is that with distance, magnetic fields go way down very quickly. In the case of a substation, they go down even faster. The linear relationship with the fields that you have on a transmission line, there's more mathematically of a squared relationship that drops them way down. So the station itself, and this is in the EMF Rapid report, stations are not EMF producers. They do not have big fields associated with them. And even if you want to do your research, and again, there's a lot out there, and I promote everyone reading about it, you can sort of make decisions on whether you feel like some of these statistics and the science behind it, if there is a correlation or not. You can make your own personal judgment because that's really where it's at. But when you look at the math of it and you look at the fields, the station is not a producer of magnetic fields that are going to affect the neighboring households. Are there fields associated with the distribution? Yes, but that's something that's there today.
And what about the diminishing of the value of property that was done to the property in Sugarloaf?
Well, the
accidental or
the Sugarloaf incident, again, is a separate incident. I'm aware of it. And again, it is an issue with the fact that as a utility, we're encumbered by federal rules as well as Public Service Commission rules that are asking us to do more aggressive trimming. Since the blackout of 2003, there are mandates for the company, and we're penalized if we don't maintain certain clearing envelopes around our lines. And that's all for reliability and trees falling into the lines. What happened at Sugarloaf, certainly from a company perspective, we were not at our best with our contractor. There was certainly a lot of rutting that went on that will be repaired, and there is some landscaping issues that will be repaired. There is no getting around the fact that we're mandated to do certain clearing for the reliability of the lines, because when the wind blows and the storms come in, the Public Service Commission is saying we want to have a wider envelope on those right-of-ways. And so there's a certain part of that burden that we have today that we didn't have 5 years ago. But certainly from a customer perspective, there were some failings on that property that we're trying to recover from. There's really no clearing issues here as far as transmission's concerned. We'll be clearing for the substation itself. As far as property values, I can't comment. I'm not a professional as far as real estate's concerned. I can only say that we try to put our facilities next to existing facilities like the transmission. Over 90% of our load is residential load, so I definitely understand the comment about locating in a commercial area, but there's a point where we're feeding communities and residential load, and we're not just feeding commercial load. And we have many of our substations in residential communities because that's the load that we serve, and so there's no getting around it. The research that has been done in Rockland when we've been posed that question, and again, certainly from a perspective, everyone has their own personal opinion, but the research that's been done that we've been a partner to and has been given to us is that, tax assessors down in Rockland County that are asked about values of homes in proximity to stations, they're not devalued by being next to a substation. And conversely, the research as far as retaining of values next to substations, from a appraisal perspective, appraisers that, again, the information we have, and everybody's welcome to do their own research, that appraisers are not devaluing properties because of substations or next to transmission facilities. And again, understanding that years ago when this was at the height of its firestorm over health effects, much of that has died down, and a lot of that is now many years old. But when professionals who are in the business of real estate, and I'm not one, they're not seeing prices going down because they're next to power facilities. But again, understanding that everyone has their own personal viewpoint of that.
Can you clarify for me? You talked about EMF, the electromagnetic forces. Comparing this to a home, is it about the same? Is it bigger or smaller? I mean, we talked. You said you'd come into a home and would do an EMF analysis.
Well, again, if you go, it's Supervisor, it's quite varied. When you walk into a home, you may be walking in the middle of the room, and you could have values of 1 or 2.
Okay.
If you walk next to your microwave when it's on, or next to your clock radio, you could have 200, 2,000, 3,000. So it really varies. Magnetic fields are a snapshot in time. So, but I understand that, in your home, whenever we would do a survey for somebody, we'd always talk about, that if your clock radio is right next to, in the proximity of where you may be sleeping, maybe you want to slide it a foot away or something like that, because it may make, you more comfortable. But from a station perspective, those fields that are elevated that may be, in the hundreds, when we talk about it going past the fence line, we're back at those 1 and 2 levels that would be typical in a home.
That answered my question. So, in essence, the home next to this would not have a EMF any higher than what it has today. Is that a fair?
That's fair. Whatever is there today, as far as the homes on Cheechung, there is no magnetic field influence from the station. Again, everyone has an influence from the distribution lines that run next to their home, and as far as the entrance cable into their home, that's the field that is dominant next to a home. This has fields, again, within the perimeter of the fence line. There's fields along the transmission facilities, but they're not intrusive to the homes here, as far as from the source of the station is concerned.
Okay.
Wouldn't it increase the EMF with the existing lines?
The existing lines, as far as the existing lines here, the magnetic fields before and after the substation would be in service would not be marginally different. Again, picture this being a highway for power. We're bringing off a little chunk